The Old Guard 2, the sequel to the 2020 Netflix hit The Old Guard, finally got its release on the 2nd of July, and there was a bit of anticipation for it in sapphic fandom, primarily for gay reasons, of course, because firstly, it promised to continue the story of a group of immortals led by a protagonist that is, let's be real, sapphic fangirl kryptonite, a badass warrior who could kick our butts, middle-aged, stunning, and best of all, tortured about a woman she lost 5 centuries ago. Secondly, because it promised to throw some light on that particular relationship, replete with its serious sapphic undertones. Or were we hallucinating that because it is Charlize Theron, who already had a few notable sapphic turns under her belt with Monster and Atomic Blonde, and all it took was a flashback with some intense eye-gazing and some serious pining for 5 centuries after she and her gal pal of 1500 years got separated to get our gaydars pinging incorrectly. Well, we'll get to that and my thoughts on this second installment later in the video, but first, here is a spoiler-free summary of the films. The Old Guard is about a small group of immortals who work as mercenaries for hire, working in the shadows to help humanity. They don't know why or how they were given this gift or curse, and it's something that could be lost without warning. When they agree to rescue some children taken hostage by a rebel militia in South Sudan, they walk into a trap. Their secret has been uncovered.
I knew this was going to happen. I said it. You have to tie this thing off.
And then what?
And then nothing. The world can burn for all I care.
The team is then made aware of a new immortal called Nile via visions, a US Marine killed in the line of duty in Afghanistan.
It's been over 200 years. Why now?
Everything happens for a reason, boss.
When Andy, the leader of the group, extracts her, Nile is resistant at first. But when she realizes that she can't go back to her old life, she is pulled into the precarious new world where they are being hunted so that their immortality can be experimented on. When Nikki and Joe are captured, the others must rescue them from their worst nightmare, being imprisoned and tortured indefinitely, just as it had happened to one of them before. During this first film, we are told that Andy, whose proper name is Andromache of Scythia, is the oldest. In the early days, she spent millennia walking the world alone, deeply lonely, haunted by the visions and dreams of another like her. They ceased only when she finally met her.
Her name was Quinn.
Way back, it was her and Andy. They had been alone so long when she found her, Quinn had given up.
For some time, there was a third who one day lost his immortality without warning and died, indicating that immortality is something that can suddenly cease. But that aside, for 1500 years, it was just the two of them roaming the planet, fighting side by side until they were captured during the witch trials.
Just you and me. Until the end.
Unable to be killed, the witch hunters ultimately separated them.
Where are you taking her?
You are too powerful together. For creatures such as you, there is no salvation.
Creating an iron coffin in which to drown Quinn while Andy escaped. A decade later, Nikki and Joe finally tracked Andy down. They had killed each other during the Crusades and became immortal, and eventually fell in love. Despite searching for Quinn for centuries, Andy was unable to find her and finally worn down, heartbroken, at least that is how I read it, she gave up. There is a definite subtext in the setup. The whole concept of the two of them living a millennia and a half together, joined at the hip, the clear bond they had even as they sat waiting to be burnt alive, the declaration that it's just the two of them until the end, and the immense guilt that Andy carries for being the one who got away. It's a perfect angsty setup. The end of the film clearly called for a sequel with so many threads left hanging, and a sequel promised a reunion between the two women given how much weight was given to them in the first film, and that is indeed what we got. In The Old Guard 2, the Immortals are still doing their mercenary work, trying to track down who is buying up large supplies of arsenal. They get a picture of a possible suspect, a woman that Nile recognizes that she's been dreaming about. This woman, who calls herself Discord, has fished Quinn, who has been dying an agonizing death over and over again for 500 years, out of the sea, doing what Andy did not. As you can imagine, Quinn is confused and mad as hell for being abandoned by the one person who promised her that it was the two of them until the end.
With every last breath I took, I imagined she was trapped somewhere in the same hell as me. All I wanted was to get out and release her from it. Just to find out she'd been free for 500 years.
This leads her to wanting to make the whole world suffer like she did, and so she sides with discord against Andy and her crew, who seeks not just to capture them, but to destroy them. Both The Old Guard and Old Guard 2 are good films. They are primarily action films, perhaps not surprising given it's based off a series of comics. It has a fighting style that is very reminiscent of Charlize's previous sapphic outing, Atomic Blonde. It has explosive, dynamic and bloody fights, and the entire cast execute them with gusto. It might also remind you of Kill Bill. I'm sure that more than a little of the fighting style was inspired by those movies, so it seems only appropriate that Uma Thurman was cast as Discord, which I, having done very little research on the film prior to its release, was pleasantly surprised by, and the final battle scene between her and Charlize's character will no doubt tickle fans of those two actors. The plot was a solid follow-up to the first, heightening the dramatic stakes and setting it up for at least a third installment. But given it's not been greenlit yet and it's Netflix, it doesn't exactly inspire confidence given Netflix's track record. This film is calling out to be made into at least a trilogy, with far too much left in the air for this to be it. It answers none of the questions raised by its major themes concretely, teasing future revelations and leaving it on a cliffhanger. Overall, I have little criticism of the films, although the concept of using gory violence and murder as a way to save humanity is not a theme I particularly connect with. It seems counterintuitive to me, but it does fall well within its genre and does a good job within those confines. I thought it a shame that Niall, who served as the layman character to introduce us into this world of immortals in the first film, had more of a backseat in the second, despite having a major revelation about her character, so I'm hoping she'll get more of a role in the next movie. What I appreciated is that they deepen the lore of being an immortal, how doing the work they do has a much greater impact than just the lives that they save, and how immortality can be reversed or even transferred. However, it doesn't answer the central question posed in the first film a few times, which is why they are immortal to begin with. What is the higher purpose of it? The first film offers up how to find purpose when there is no end to one's life and time loses meaning by being of service to mankind. The second film explains more about the laws of how immortality works, but only teases some kind of bigger revelation to underpin the themes of life, death, and suffering. What both films have done well is to build in some serious character stakes. The fact immortals can suddenly lose that ability hangs over each of the characters, and these stakes are magnified with the information revealed in the second movie. But more importantly, there are complex emotional stakes laid out for the main characters, and Andy and Quinn's relationship are squarely centered. With Quinn now found, we get an emotional reunion for the two, laden with all the hurt and betrayal on one side and the guilt on the other. The strength of these emotions only speak to how deep their feelings go. Even as they fight it out, it's an expression of their ruptured bond. There is a significant amount of backstory laid out, and between Andy's behavior and how much weight the rest of the immortal team give this relationship, we as the audience are told how much importance we should view it with. In the first film, there is an extended series of flashbacks. It's not just a few throwaway lines about why Andy is so haunted. In the second, there is a significant build-up to their reunion, with Quinn seeking out Booker, another immortal, with the burning question of,
She's spoken of me.
She never stops.
we are shown Andy hearing that Quinn is back, the brimming emotions in her eyes, and we get a moment of real vulnerability as Andy travels to find her, questioning who she will find.
What if she doesn't recognize me? I don't mean physically, but who I've become. What if I don't recognize her?
We get a sense of how many centuries she walked down the same cobbled streets to, as Quinn put it, find her where she always could, a rather romantic turn of phrase that feels both literal and metaphorical. As the remainder of the film unravels, however, their relationship appears to take a back seat, and for a moment there I was feeling like they were letting it drop. That is, until the end of the film. Okay, spoilers from here on out. If you want to know if they canonically acknowledge their relationship, then let me answer that for you now. No, they don't. And I can understand that for some, tired of subtextual relationships in mainstream movies, might pass on this one, although it feels like, to me, the ultimate acknowledgement of their relationship is still pending. There are a few reasons for it. Firstly, in the comics, Andy and Quinn were lovers before Quinn's incarceration, and given they've canonically acknowledged Nikki and Joe's love, there seems to be no reason they shouldn't ultimately do the same here. Then there is how Quinn not only rejoins forces with Andy to go rescue the other immortals who have been captured by Discord, as well as a couple of moments surrounding that as well. When Andy stood over Quinn, who by the end of the film had lost her immortality while Andy, who lost hers in the first film, had regained it, it looked like Andy was going to let her bleed out. She seemed so unmoved by the possibility that Quinn was dying, but then we see her nursing her back to health. When she goes to inspect her wound, unspeaking, there is a moment of connection. We see Andy curled up next to Quinn, sleeping on the stony ground, a gesture which has Quinn covering her with a blanket. As this happens, soft music plays, a mixture of yearning and hope. The rupture between them is mending, and then, as they decide to go after their comrades to save them from Discord, they are most certainly flirting, falling into a dynamic that we can safely assume is smooth and practiced and full of their love and affection for each other. The lack of textual acknowledgement of the nature of their relationship aside, there is one element that I think requires addressing, and it's why Andy gave up searching for Quinn. While Quinn has gotten past her initial anger at returning to the world to find Andy living freely, I do have to wonder if she's truly forgiven her. If, with immortality, time loses meaning, then 5 centuries of trawling the ocean to find a lost love becomes negligible, and so I hope they touch on that. But firstly, let us cross our fingers that Netflix comes through for us, and if they do, it promises another epic movie as Andy and Quinn fight side by side as they did for millennia to rescue their team. If you'd like more reviews of other sapphic content, I have a playlist on your screen, and since you made it here, a thumbs up to boost this video would be greatly appreciated. Until next time, lady lovers.